The Raiders game was narrow, but you have to take away from it. How do you fix the tackle position? An old friend is going to guide us through that. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. You know what time it is. We're going to talk ball, but we're brought to you by FanDuel. You can get a big return right now. If you place a $5 bet and you win, you get $150 back in bonus bets on your account just for winning that $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com and get started. We're going to get started with Seth Keysor, old friend of the show. It's been quite a while, but I'm excited to have you back on, buddy. How you doing?
Man, I am doing really, really well. It's so good to see you, my friend. Hearing that guitar riff and from the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, I was like, man, it's just like the old days. And not even the old days at this point, because like the now we've been doing this long enough that there's like the old days, then there's like the middle days, and now there's these days. And either way, we're just washed, man. We're just old, but it's wonderful to see you. I'm excited to talk Chiefs, even if it's after a game that was, I'll just get it out of the way, it was very weird.
Yeah, as they all are, right? You know that over on your show. Make sure you check Seth out.
Could have named the podcast anything. Could have named it Only Chiefs Blowouts. Could have named it Chiefs Only Win Games in Uninteresting Fashion because they're so dominant. That doesn't really roll off the tongue, but...
It would have worked, though. There's an acronym in there somewhere. I would appreciate if you guys would rename the show now. Folks, you can find him in KCSN and everywhere else. Make sure you check him out. And thanks for joining us and being here on Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day on every channel for every team everywhere. So make sure you get them, like, sub, hit the bell, get on the audio side. Do it all. Thanks for being one of our core listeners. You everydayers, we appreciate you. You can get us on the text line at 816-357-8781. We're going to talk Chargers coming up here and what we have to look forward to with the rejuvenated bolt of lightning. What does this season look like? We'll get to that coming up next, but we got to start first and foremost. Weird game and all. It's been a weird season at the offensive tackle position. Obviously had a veteran last season. You're going with two young guys this year. It's been a bit back and forth. Let's start with where we are. Rough game for Wanya Morris. Where do you think he is right now in preparation for the rest of this season?
I don't think Morris is healthy enough to be legitimately playable. There's been a few things going around right now, and I thought about even writing an article about it, but it's gone around so much that he was losing to the same move multiple times in a row against the Raiders. And that's because he's trying the same move multiple times in a row against the Raiders. And some guy who fancies himself a film analyst, Dan Dangers or Dan, maybe it was Harms, I can't remember. He was noting that, with Morris's hand placement and his hand usage, he wasn't doing a good job disguising the intention. It's the same thing every obvious passing down. He can't get good lateral movement, so he tries a stab with his outside hand. And once pass rushers time that, it's over because he doesn't have the lateral movement to keep up with them. Wanya Morris is playing hurt. I can't even remember if they're listing him on the injury report at this point. If they're not, they should be. You can look at him earlier in the season and then look at him now. And Morris was never a particularly agile guy. That was never his game. Honestly, part of me is like, maybe guard would be an interesting thing to look at him for because, he can maul like crazy. And he doesn't have terrible agility. It's just not good. But right now, he just side to side, especially at that left tackle spot, he cannot get the depth he needs to get. So he tries to win with his upper body because he's a big, strong guy, good length, and he just can't do it. And guys are just teeing off on the same move over and over again because that's the NFL. All these guys watch a ton of tape. All these guys are so fast, so strong. And the Raiders gave him a hard time last year. But this year he just doesn't, in my opinion, look playable with where he's currently at. I guess the one thing for him would be, when they're playing the Chargers, he's going to be up against Khalil Mack virtually the entire time, which that's bad on paper because Mack can still really play. The one thing is Mack is a power-based guy. Mack is not going to try to turn the corner on him. But the thing is, Mack's also a good hand fighter, and he's going to swat aside that hand and still get to half a man no matter what. And so he just doesn't look playable to me at this point. He just doesn't have the agility, and he knows it. He knows it. The guys he's facing know it. He knows that they know that he knows that they know, and it's just not tenable in my opinion.
I'm completely with you. So it brings you to a two-man choice. Either the newly acquired veteran DJ Humphries, who we don't even know if he's playable in terms of football shape. Can he go 60 snaps? I have no concept of that right now. Or Kingsley Suamaty, who obviously had his confidence destroyed from everything that we've heard, and I certainly understand that, and wasn't able really to recover it in spot duty throughout the season. Right. I'm leaning towards Kingsley, though, because I got to tell you, I'm not really sure that I like the way that was handled the first time. And because of that, yes, you're going to face Khalil Mack this week, but you got Garrett next week, and you're going to have pass rushers the next 2 weeks that can attack you with speed. I need the most athleticism out there in the lower body that I can get. And so I'm leaning that direction. How do you see fixing this answer this week?
For me, they'll know, and Andy Reid almost, he kind of intimated this when he was talking about, we'll see how he feels when talking about DJ Humphries. What I take from that is the football shape thing. My guess is, they probably haven't done a long drive drill since training camp. My guess is you probably we'll see one in practice this week just to see, hey, DJ, either that or, hey, we're going to have you off to the side and we're going to let George Karlaftis wear you out for, 20 straight reps, because George is one of the few guys that can do that because he's a crazy person who never runs out of energy, and see if he can do it. Because like you said, there's being in shape, then there's being in football shape. And that's just something that even at tackle, it's a struggle, especially because you're often on an island. Which, speaking of Kingsley Suamaty, that's one thing. They left him on an island a ton those first couple weeks. I don't know what they were expecting to happen against Trey Hendrickson. Right. Unless he was, came in Joe Alt ready, that wasn't going to happen. And even Joe Alt, now he got baptized by Myles Garrett. That's different. No matter who they trot up next week against Garrett, that person's going to get destroyed if they're on an island. No one blocks Garrett except peak Trent Williams, peak Lane Johnson. Mitch Schwartz did all right against him, but then they just moved him to the other side. They're like, hey, go against big fish. So for me, it's all about, is DJ Humphries in football shape? If he is, playbook or nah, I would go with him. If he's in football shape. Now, it's tough to tell that in practice, but I think they can get some approximation and kind of, protect him on a snap or two every now and then to let him, keep his breath a little bit. That's not ideal, but it affects your play calling less than saying, we can't leave this guy alone. That's what I'd go with. But I really liked DJ Humphries' 2023 pass protection film. Mm-hmm. One of the things I did, because NFL Pro is like a really good product now, which shout out to the NFL, way to go. You got one right. But basically they just went back to what Game Pass used to be.
Right.
Which is like, when they took all the way the search functionality, everyone that does what we do was like, what, but why? And so that really made no sense, but I don't know why they did that. But now, so what I could do is I look at every single third down pass pro rep that he had last year. There were 129 of them. I think 12 of them were third and short, but the rest of them are third and medium or long. So those are the money shots right there. Yep. Second and 5, because you're probably running some play action. I mean, that's not that it's easy at the NFL, but that's not the money shot. And that's not the ones where Wanya Morris, that's not where he was struggling, even against the Raiders. Where he's struggling is 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5 and longer, where they're passing, they know that all that stuff. I liked Humphries' tape. He's got good feet. You mentioned the feet. He's athletic. He moves laterally well. You can see what had him as a first-round pick. He's also, even though his length isn't great, I think he only has 33.5-inch arms. It's not really great length, but he's got a lot of power in those hands, and that's where he wins. He gets to the spot, and he has a really good punch that can just direct guys around over and over. So if he's in football shape, I'd go with him. If not, I would go with Kingsley over Morris. I understand a lot of Chiefs fans would feel some kind of way about that, but I tend to agree with you, and I'd love to hear more what you have to say about the way it was handled. I'm sure you've told your listeners more, but I want to hear it too, because I think we might have a lot of agreement on that, which means we're just going to it will be just like the old days where you and me are just going to agree for 20 minutes. It's going to be great.
Well, let's get to this break real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll agree on arguing to disagree. That's what we'll do, folks. We'll be right back. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that 50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Game Time app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that 50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at Prize Picks. Okay. Welcome back in, folks. Make sure you check out the Chief of the North letter. You can get that. I know you're probably all subbed already, but if you can't get it, you can get there from mine on NFL 33. There's a little suggestion box. Make sure you get over there. Looking at the season as a whole, it's a great way to start. And I will say this, Henderson is a pass rusher that can destroy guys that have experience.
Yep.
Letting a rookie play out there, I think you had to let it happen, but you have to then be able to recover from it. And I think that's where they made the mistake. Because not only do you lose confidence there, but if you don't get the reps in practice to then mechanically fix what you did wrong there, you're not able to develop that. And so I think that puts your whole development on pause. Not being with the ones I think plays a factor. I would have left him in if you had another couple of struggles. Maybe you do make the change, but I think it was a little bit preemptive in the way that they handled it. And now they're stuck where he might actually have to face worse pass rushers if he does have to play these next couple of games.
Absolutely, and less developed. And one thing that's worth noting, because I think what's ringing in a lot of Chiefs fans' heads is Kingsley's disastrous snaps against the Broncos, where he came in and struggled so much that a clearly hurt Morris came back in, and that's the one thing. A lot of people have had stuff to say about Morris. The dude is doing the best he can. He's laboring and he is in pain. And I mean, he was. After this Raiders game, he took all the responsibility. Didn't hear him mention the knee once. And it was just, I got to be better. That's not the standard. Man, that had to have been really tough to do. Yes, he came in and got wrecked against a really good speed rusher. Absolutely, it looked ugly. Coming in cold like that is tough. Coming in cold like that against a really good speed rusher is tough. And a guy that's made a lot of good tackles look foolish too. It's been a quick hook for Suamaty both times. That's what's interesting to me is even though Morris had never had a game like he did Friday against the Raiders, where he was not allowing the offense to function, the difference was they changed the functioning of the offense around Morris. Now, it wasn't because of Morris, right? And this is where I think we get into Suamaty. I've just got kind of a galaxy brain theory on this here, that he also fell victim to the fact that I think after the Bengals game, they were still stuck in the we're going to throw the ball down the field a ton mindset. And they're like, we can't do it with this guy. We're going to yank him for the guy that we know. Well, then they found out, Hollywood Brown's injury is long-term. I think that was a weird thing earlier in the season. Had Hollywood Brown's injury been known to be a long-term injury right out of the gate, I think the offense would have shifted faster into some of the things that we saw, that we've seen since then. But they didn't. Week 2, they were still chucking the ball down the field a ton because they're thinking, okay, we just need to keep him. We just need to keep it going a little bit, keep the offense going, throwing the ball down the field to Rice. And then Brown will be back maybe week 3, maybe week 4, something like that. Well, all of a sudden now it's not working that way. Okay, well, we still want to chuck the ball down the field. Well, then Rice gets hurt. Now we're back to arguably a worse scenario. Worthy's not quite ready for the bigger role, which I think he's more ready now than he would have been then. If Mahomes got rid of this block that he has when he throws the ball to Xavier Worthy. So even against the Raiders, there's a couple of bad passes that Worthy hauled in. And I was just like, does he? Because, I mean, he threw some dimes to Justin Watson, to DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, but then he's throwing to Worthy, and I'm like, what? Like there's a world. Just this is a complete digression. There's a world where Xavier Worthy has. I know we're all shocked. There's a world where Xavier Worthy has like 800, 900 receiving yards and 9-10 touchdowns and is in legitimate running for Rookie of the Year through things. If you even take aside his own kind of brain fart moments, which he's had them. But I mean, like, the second outside, step out of bounds thing, that was a bad throw. Like, Mahomes could have put him easily down the field. But I mean, he's just getting missed. And I mean, even the kill shot at the end of the Raiders game, they saw the coverage they wanted. You got zero man coverage. Worthy separated. He's separating down the field. He's getting open. Yep. And Mahomes just missed him. Now, to be fair, that's because Travis Kelce completely blew his assignment. Mahomes is getting his ribs crushed. I think that's personally why Kelce walked right off the field to end the game. I think he was mad at himself. We've seen that over and over again. I mean, I don't think he even went and said hi to any of the Raiders. People were talking about that. He just went right off the field. I think he was mad because he knew he got his buddy blasted, and that should have been the end of the game because Worthy catches that and just drops to the ground. And now we're all of a sudden talking about Worthy having like an 80, 90-yard game instead of a respectable 55 yards or whatever. So anyway, all that's a long road to a short thought that I think with Suamaty, the rope was quick, or the hook was quick, because they thought they were still going to be a downfield offense. Then with Morris, the offense had shifted to a quick attack as they're getting Hopkins into the swing of things, which, by the way, the offense has looked a lot better since Hopkins got into the swing of things until they played the Raiders. So God help us all. Who knows what's going to happen against the Chargers? And his weaknesses weren't getting exploited the same way. I think Suamaty looks better in the version of the offense they have now than he did when they're just trying to chuck the ball down the field and leaving their left tackles on an island. Which, by the way, Andy, 3rd and long, don't leave your left tackle on an island. Like, I mean, the play.
Look, there's an idea.
Yeah, the play that got Morris pulled, and I get it because there were guys open in the end zone, and Mahomes was mad. I know they showed it a little on the broadcast. I was there at Arrowhead. He did not stop yelling coming off the field. I mean, he was upset. But the thing is, it's not like he wasn't yelling at Morris.
Yeah.
And I think he was upset with Morris, yes, because it's the same move every time. But I think he's also upset with Andy, just saying, I mean, what are we doing here? You had a tight end lined up there, and you didn't do a thing. He could have chipped and gone out, which is a much more successful way of chipping than using running backs, because you don't get those same
delay routes
spatial
are picking
issues.
all over the league this year. You might as well use them.
Exactly. So there's a lot to go into. I personally think Suamaty is the choice if Humphries isn't in football shape. If Humphries is in football shape, I think you go with him. He's not a particularly good run blocker, but if he can run block or if he can pass block 90% as well as he did in 2023, he's an upgrade over what they've had and a decently sizable one.
Yeah, and that's the way that it'll work. We're going to see what we can do against the Chargers, what the Chiefs should be doing, in Seth's opinion, as well as mine, right after this. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you get $150 back in bonus bets if you win right now. FanDuel Sportsbook, the app, gives you everything that you need to get bets in place for the NFL all in one place. So when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to check out the latest stats, you live by that play-by-play, you can do that and much more in the same page right where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com today and join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Folks, make sure you like and sub and do all that stuff. Hit NFL33.com as well as RTRfootball.com and the Chief in the North newsletter. Do you have a shortened one for that?
I've got bit.ly/Seth really hates money. That's
okay. That's going to
work. Briscoe made it years ago. Although right now, if you go to the site itself and you go to the Minnesota Chiefs fan or mnchiefsfan.substack.com and read the most recent article, you will see that we do have a current Cyber Monday deal that's lasting just a little bit longer. Because why pay $12 when you can pay $6 a year?
Dang,
it makes Josh so mad every year. It's so funny.
I'm with Josh. I got to tell you, but hey, it is what it is. The other thing I'm with Josh is that I'm sick and tired of seeing this offense not help itself. It is a stick in the mud, return to the old days, whatever you want to call it. They're better at running the ball this year. Yet they've gone away from that the last 2 weeks, steadily and more so. Now, even with Pop's back, I think you have to double down on that. I think it helps whatever the tackle situation is. And if you can do that, you can play action. And my key, you tell me what you think. The key to this ball game in the passing game is 2.8. He needs 2.8 seconds. He doesn't have to have 3. He doesn't have to have 4. He can hit 2.8 and hit a 12-yard dig. He can hit 2.8 and hit an intermediate crosser. These are the things that they should be doing more often in this offense. They can help the tackle that way. What would you do against the Chargers?
One thing against the Chargers in their first matchup, that was one of Mahomes' shakier performances earlier in the year. It's the one that kind of got the ball rolling and people talking about his performances this year. He had one early performance against the Bengals where his accuracy wasn't really up to snuff. He had a couple that were like that, but against the Chargers in particular, he bailed on quite a few clean pockets. And Minter, to his credit, kind of got into Mahomes' head. Excellent defensive coordinator. He's done a great job. He did a really great job running some stunts to the interior that got Mahomes jumping outside the pocket, and he had a looping defender coming right to the spot where Mahomes was bailing. And he always made sure it was always an edge or a linebacker, not even like a power edge. Because the problem, if you get Mahomes in space against a guy that is even a average defensive end athlete, that doesn't really bother him that much. He can string that along for an extra 4 or 5 seconds. If it's someone that can run him down, then that really changes the calculus because, that person's got momentum and he doesn't. And so they were able to get him to run into pressure at least half a dozen times that game. And then they also, the interior, low-key, had a pretty not great game against the Chargers. That's when Tooney was still rounding into shape. I don't think he played a great game. Trey Smith, I think, rebounded a little bit against the Raiders. He had a couple of rough weeks in pass pro in a row. In my opinion, at least, in terms of just pass pro isn't Trey Smith's thing. Not that he's bad at it. Let me caveat that. Trey Smith is a very, very, very good offensive lineman. He is an elite run blocker. Yes. He is a solid pass blocker. And there's a huge difference in those two things. That's one reason why that and the fact that the center market is so different from the guard market. That's one reason why Creed got paid already and Trey didn't, because Creed is an elite pass blocker and an elite run blocker. And Tooney got paid because he's an elite pass blocker and a decent run blocker. I don't think Trey Smith is in a Chiefs uniform next year. I think they'd love to keep that trio together, but I don't think you can. Even though they build the run game around Trey Smith's skills, and they should. He's a stud, and he's going to go somewhere and be incredible. But if you're not an elite pass blocker, that can be problematic. I thought he bounced back a little bit against the Raiders, but he low-key had a tough game. Creed kind of had a tough game against the Chargers last time. The interior, I hate doing this. I got to jump on the bandwagon with you in that 2.8 seconds, but I'll add to it, okay?
Okay.
Mahomes has to give himself that 2.8 seconds. He has got to stay put. He's got to feel the protection. That has been hit and miss this year, feeling the protection. I understand he doesn't trust the line, particularly the left tackle spot. There was a while where he wasn't really trusting the interior as well, and he was dropping his eyes. And the Chargers game was a rough one. If he does that, they can be picked on in the secondary a little bit. Obviously not Derwin James, but they've got some corners that they're not terrible, they're not bad, but they're not elite in my opinion. With a passing game built around Hopkins, who's clearly wide receiver 1 now.
Oh yeah.
Which has been good. That's worked out well because his impact went well beyond the box score in terms of yards because he had a pair of huge penalties against the Raiders. Those are game swinging plays. A 30-yard pass interference penalty is just as good as a catch, and that's the world we live in. And Hopkins draws them well. Watching Mahomes turn into a contested ball thrower has been really fun. And it answered a question for us also, though, in terms of like opening up the draft pool because he will. Now, to be fair, he's doing it to one of the best of this last generation. Because in terms of contested ball catchers, it's D-Hop and Julio, right? Of that generation. Like it's those two. So maybe the bar's a little high, but they're attacking downfield a little more with him. So he's got to buy himself those 2.8 seconds. And then I'll unfold one more thing into it because this is what I do. Push the ball down the field. I have been screaming Xavier Worthy, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Worthy until it starts working because he's getting open. He is creating separation. He is getting open down the field. You got to keep firing until you start making that work because their offense is relatively efficient. It just lacks the big play punch. And you even make one or two of those a game, and it changes the entire math surrounding this offense. It also changes. It made me sick how often live I could see the Raiders lining up in single high. That would have been unthinkable
right
a few years ago. And Worthy can beat it. Yep. He's gotten more comfortable freeing his hands as he's getting through deeper routes. Still going to struggle a little bit on some of the stuff. You know, he's just going to have to gain 10 pounds this offseason. Like, and he's young. What is he, 21? He'll gain 10 pounds naturally. But he's separating down the field. He can punish these looks. He can punish cover 2 up the middle of the field. He can punish these looks. But you got to keep firing because that particular relationship is one of the things that's going to determine whether the Chiefs bring home a three-peat is Mahomes and Worthy. We know what D-Hop is. We can see it in the offense. It's working. It's good. Awesome. Kelsey, not quite who he was in 2022. Doesn't open up against man the same way. Not quite. But still elite, high level, just no longer freakish elite, right?
Right.
Worthy, that's the button. You start pushing that button, and it changes the entire math.
And you might get Hollywood back. And I'll tell you this, you can still hit cover 1 beaters in a 3-step drop and a 5-step drop. Get the damn ball out, and you're going to be fine. So
absolutely trust what you're seeing. That's partly a Mahomes issue. Last year, I hope someday someone with access writes a book about the 2023 season and the impact that had on Mahomes' psyche. Because I don't think 2023 and 2024 and down the stretch in the playoffs in 23, he was unbelievable. I played quarterback as well as a human being can play it in the playoffs last year. I would say, though, in terms of how he's playing overall, 23 and 24 would be the first 2 years where I didn't see him take a remarkable step forward and maybe even a little bit of regression in certain areas because he just doesn't trust what he's seeing. He's got, STSD disorder, Sky Moore disorder. I didn't quite do the acronym correctly there because I realized it sounded like STD. So there you go.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Way to cover that one.
So that's, and that's one thing. People say, oh, they don't have the protection, take shots down the field. There are cover 1, cover 3 beaters that it's 3 steps and out. These guys are fast, man. You can 1, 2, 3. You got to put the ball in the spot and trust your guy to be in the right spot. And that's one thing with Worthy. He's not a contested ball guy. He's not. That's a terrible position to put him in. But he does generally, when it's not the sideline, get to the right spot. He shows some nuance down the field. Give him a shot because he's a better receiver now than he was earlier in the season.
Yeah, last time they faced the Raiders. Folks, make sure you get to the Substack that is Minnesota Chiefs fan. Get there, use the discount, get your $6. Check out RGR Football and NFL33.com. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you guys being here. Seth, it has been too long, my friend, and I really appreciate you coming back.
Man, anytime I get to see you, and you know what? I'm just going to embarrass you for a second, if that's okay. I really mean this. I always tell, it's kind of become a running gag that I always say thanks for having me because Briscoe makes fun of me, or I didn't realize that I would always say that to people at the end of every show. And he's like, Seth, you got to stop thanking people for having you on. He made some joke about Twitter followers or whatever. And I was like, whatever. So I always say it, but I would just tell you, legitimately, thank you for having me on. Anytime I get to see you and talk to you, it makes my day better. And that is not fluff for the audience. That is not anything like that. In an industry with a lot of friendly people, having a friend like you is a good thing.
It is, and back at you, dude. I couldn't ask for more. Hope you and yours are well, folks. Hope you and yours are well. Have a great one. We will catch you next time. Make sure you check out Seth's work and ours. We will hit you